Thank you to Ravit for your support on Patreon.
Hello everyone, my name is Deckerlink the Trained Unprofessional, and welcome to Adastra. The dream I have is strange. I'm in a black void of some kind. And despite the emptiness, I have some sort of purpose. I don't know what it is, but I'm being driven towards it. It's not a good dream. It's a borderline nightmare. The empty void isn't the scary part, though. It's the feeling that I'm being watched by someone. Or something. It's a feeling that I have no say in where I'm going. No choice at all. I'm very curious about you. What? I'm limited in what I can ask, but I'll start with this. What is death to you? Infinity or oblivion? Jesus! Infinity! Very interesting. Sometime just before I fully wake up, I hear something moving around behind me, followed by a mumbled voice, and a soft padding sound that fades after a few moments. I wonder if one of my flatmates just arrived and looked in my room for some reason. As I shift around, I frown at how weirdly firm the bed I'm laying on is. My bed was softer than this when I got into it. And where are the sheets? Dun da da! You're not at your apartment, buddy. You're halfway across the goddamn universe. I open my eyes and see a red, velvety surface in front of me. Then I turn over and see an unfamiliar ceiling with a gold square pattern above me. Oh yeah. I look over toward the bed where I expect to see Amicus, but it's empty. I stare again at the ceiling for a while, letting the sudden realization that I'm still here wash over me. I go over everything that happened yesterday, the last shred of hope that I'd been dreaming fading from my mind. I look over at Amicus's bed again, wondering if he'd gone into the bathroom. I listen for a while, but I don't hear anything coming from the door across from the bed. There's a muffled sound of what I assume are birds chirping coming from behind the curtain. Slowly, I slide off the sofa, feeling the cold marble against my bare feet as I do. I shiver and decide to bring the blanket with me, wrapping it around my shoulders. I shuffle around the sofa and move to the side of the large curtain and pull it back just slightly. There's the title screen. Look at this lovely landscape. The air that comes through is fresh and immediately reminds me of camping by a lake during summer camp. That would make sense because ahead of me is what looks like a massive body of water that seems to come right up to the edge of the balcony. It's warm, but not nearly as humid as it was last night. Pink and orange light paints the clouds on the horizon, and for a moment I take in the sight. The hills and the mountains to either side of the lake are covered in lush green trees. So is the little island a ways out to my left. In the distance, on the other side of the lake, is what looks like a city of some kind. It's hard to tell how big it is, since it's a good ways away, but from what I can tell, the buildings are massive, and the smaller structures that taper off to the side seem to stretch far off behind them. Dim lights from windows glitter in the distance, and I wonder if that city is full of wolves like Amicus and Cassius. Despite my situation, I kinda want to go see it. As I watch, I see a small, dark, oval shape descend down towards the city, blinking blue and red lights. I have to smile and shake my head a little. I still want to go back to Earth, but this is undeniably amazing. I let the curtain slide shut finally and turn back to the room. So, where did that big wolf go to? He could have at least told me before he ran off. Oh god, the computer. Good morning, William. What the fuck happened? I tried to do the voice and it just didn't work. I jump as the computer voice crackles overhead. I clutch my chest, breathing hard as the voice continues.
Amicus has a message for you.
There's a pause, then... Hey, William, I'm going to my morning meditation. It's in a room just down the hall, and I'll be back in 15 minutes. Why don't you take the time to get familiar with the room? There's a pause, then... Are you still recording, Com?
Yes, 10 recordings. Say end of message.
See you soon, William. End message. Is it still...
10 recordings. Say end of message.
My God's end of message! Yeah, Amicus starting to curse again before the message cuts off. I look around the room a bit, noticing how little there is to get familiar with. I can look through the dresser, but I assume that's mostly filled with Amicus's things, and I doubt he wants me to get familiar with those. I move across the room towards the bathroom door, standing in front of it for a moment before studying the black panel in the middle of it. It's similar to what Amicus used to open the door in the hallway. I reach out and try to push it, and the moment my fingers brush against the surface, the door slides to the side so fast that I jump. The lights inside come on, slowly illuminating the interior. Highfalutin jibber-jabber. I poke my head inside, then quickly step in, imagining the sliding door suddenly closing and chopping my head off. Jesus. It stays open until I'm halfway into the room, then it closes automatically. There's a large sink to my left, and an even larger mirror above it. In the corner, there's a marble-looking bench with a hole that I can only assume is the toilet. Finally, across from that is a large bath, and what I imagine to be the shower. I actually really need to pee, so I head over to the bench and do my business down the hole, hoping that it's not something like a laundry chute and I'm pissing on the servants below. As soon as I start, though, water begins to pour down the sides of the tube, leaving me pretty sure that it is indeed a toilet. I guess I should be more confident in assuming things about this place. Everything is fairly similar to what I had on Earth. I walk over to the sink and push at the faucet, and I stick my hand under it, and water starts pouring out. I'm tempted to take a drink, but then I notice the water is bubbly and soapy looking. Having nothing left to do in the bathroom, I turn back to the door to find the black square again. I reach for it, and just like before, the door slides open. Oh!
If he thinks he's going to get away with it.
Cassius is facing away from me, his arms folded as his bushy white tail swishes from side to side. I freeze up, staring at him wide-eyed. I have plenty of time to jump to the side, maybe hide in the shower area, but I stand there like an idiot as the wolf turns around almost in slow motion. He freezes just like I did when he spots me standing in the doorway. We stare at each other for a moment, for a very long moment. Then he screeches, making me jump back in shock.
Oh God, Edible, what is it?
The wolf dodges back and forth, expecting me to try to run at him.
Cato, help, come quick.
Finally, Cassius's little dance of terror ends with him sprinting to my left and out of the room. I stand there for a moment, listening to his screams fade down the echoing hallway, while wondering if I should hide or something. Maybe go back to the bathroom and try to lock it? Instead, I hear more thudding, someone running up the hallway from the other end. Oh. He's barely in a towel. Good lord. Then Amicus comes running into the room, sliding to a stop in the middle of it. He spins in a circle, then spots me and runs up to me.
What happened?
Cassius came in and saw me.
You let him see you?
What? No, he just came in. Where were you?
Meditating. I left a message. Where did he go?
Cassius? He just ran off.
Damn it!
Amicus stands there, his tail thrashing back and forth. I glare at him. If you hadn't just left me here, this wouldn't have happened.
Cassius shouldn't have even come in here.
Amicus turns away and starts pacing back and forth. What are you doing?
Shh, I'm thinking.
I bristle a little out of being shushed, but I stay quiet, watching the wolf stalk back and forth. Then I hear voices again. Cassius's, along with another deeper voice. Amicus turns to me.
Just be quiet for a moment as I try to explain things, understand?
I glare at Amicus. His ears flatten and his expression becomes a bit more desperate.
Please?
I still don't say anything, but I give him a curt nod. Amicus reaches out towards my shoulder, then pauses and instead offers his paw to me. I take it and he gently pulls me from the bathroom to stand next to him in the middle of the room, facing the open doorway to the hall. Amicus fixes a confident smile on his face, though I can feel how tense he is next to me. From around the corner comes Cassius, but he's hiding behind someone else, another wolf. They both stop at the doorway as the larger wolf takes in both Amicus and I.
Amicus, what are you doing with it? Step away!
Amicus gently places his paw around my shoulders, drawing me in against his bulk. Cassius' eyes widen at that. The wolf next to him seems to have no reaction. And again, that could just be because I can't see his eyes.
What are you doing, Amicus?
Amicus clears his throat.
Cassius, Cato.
He nods to each of them in turn.
This is my pet, William.
Cassius' mouth falls open. The other wolf, Cato, seems to shift a bit at that. Silence drags out. Then Cato shifts again.
Is this where you were for the past 2 days, Amicus?
Amicus' arm tightens a bit around my shoulders, drawing me in closer.
Yes. And that's where you took your father's ship?
A slight pause.
Yes.
Cassius gasps.
He can't do that!
He glances at Cato.
Can he?
The bigger wolf is quiet, and even though I can't see his eyes, I get the feeling that he's watching me closely. Cassius turns his glare back on Amicus.
Where did it come from?
Amicus rubs my arm.
He came from far away. Is he a child? Yes.
What? He can't just take someone else's child!
Can he? Again, Cassius looks at Cato. And once again, Cato is quiet, then he finally sighs.
We will discuss this over breakfast, Amicus. Get dressed and bring the creature with you. As long as he's safe. Of course. Then we will continue the conversation there.
With that, Cato turns on his heel and walks out of the room, leaving Cassius to look after him with a gaping mouth. He turns back on us, snarling.
I don't know what you're planning with that thing, Amicus, but if I know you, it's going to be incredibly stupid.
He takes another second to look at me with unmistakable disgust.
You could have at least obtained one that isn't so ugly, you know.
Leave, Cassius, and don't think about snooping around in my room again, understood?
Cassius doesn't respond and simply walks away, looking over his shoulder just before he leaves.
And expect to receive punishment from Cato for stealing Father's ship. Absolutely outrageous.
I watch Cassius' tail swish out of sight behind the doorway. Amicus lets out a huge sigh, and I feel his chest deflate against my shoulder.
Damn it!
I sigh as well. You really didn't think all this through, did you? I slowly move away from under the wolf's heavy arm.
Like I said, I made many mistakes. I'm just tired of lying low. Lying now.
You still told him I'm a child. Amicus brings a paw abruptly to his mouth, touching the pads of his fingers to his lips. Might not be a shushing gesture that I'm familiar with, but I know what it means. Amicus listens, his ears straight up and his eyes looking up at the ceiling. Finally, he comes back at me, whispering, "That is something I can never tell them the truth about, and it would be best if you never mentioned it again. Please." His suddenly serious demeanor cools my mood a little, so I just sigh again and sit on the edge of his bed. Amicus stands there awkwardly for a moment, then quickly moves over to the open door, placing a paw to the squaring to close it. He moves back over to me, his voice still lowered. "Well, if we're going to pass you off as a pet, then I should probably get you familiar with your duties." "My duties?"
Duties?
I raise an eyebrow at Amicus. Amicus sighs. "I understand your frustration, but we need to do this right if we want things to go as smoothly as possible. You don't have to do anything, but it will help you blend in better." I roll my eyes and lean back in my hands, looking up at Amicus. Alright, what do I do? Well, first of all, I take my shower, and you help me wash. Help you wash? Yes. You would soap my fur and such. We stare at each other for a moment. It's something that the others wouldn't see, so I suppose it's not necessary. Unless you want to. No. Well, alright then. Never mind on that one. Amicus is clearly offended. Dude, I'm not gonna soap up your naked body. Yeah, you made that clear. Anyway, I'd honestly rather skip the shower today, but spending all that time in the spaceship has left me rather unkempt. Amicus turns to the bathroom and opens the door. You should at least come into the bathroom while I shower in case Cassius decides to barge in again. You could stare at the wall or something. Amicus stalks into the bathroom, and I have to smile as I follow him in, the door closing quietly behind me. Amicus notices me smirking. What? I shrug. Nothing, just kind of funny that you got so huffy. I don't know what that means. Amicus is adjusting his underwear, then it suddenly drops, and I quickly look away. I suppose you people prefer modesty. Out of the corner of my eye, I can tell Amicus has a smirk of his own. Around others, at least. And you guys don't just walk around naked, so you prefer modesty too? It all depends on the time and place. Amicus moves into the shower, and for the next 10 or so minutes, I sit on the counter while the room fills with steam. Once the water shuts off, a loud fan starts up, and I glance over to see Amicus with his arms out, his fur blowing back and forth. He notices me look over and then look away again. You know... He has to almost shout over the fan. You could have cleaned up too if you'd showered with me, but you won't have time with breakfast coming up. You'll have to do it after. I shrug and wait as Amicus steps out and grabs clean undergarments hanging from a hook, which he spends the next minute tying on. Alright, balls are gone, you can look now. Actually, do you even have those? I don't want to assume. I open the door and head back out. Guess you'll never know. Amicus spends another minute in the bathroom opening a door into the sink and rifling around in it. The next thing you're supposed to do is get the brush and oils from here. He lifts up a brush and a few glass bottles with colorful liquids inside before coming over to stand in front of me. He sighs. I know you don't want to, and I realize now that I'm repulsive to you, but I can't really reach every part of my coat, and it would be strange if I called for a drone when I have a pet. I think about making another moody remark, but the expression on his face makes me pause. I suppose I'm being a little bratty right now. Besides, what else am I going to do while I'm here? Sit on the sofa all day? I get up and take the brush from Amicus, and I see a surprised smile on his face. Thank you, William. He shows me how to apply one of the liquids, a honey-colored one, to the brush. It's a treatment for my fur. It keeps it soft and voluminous looking. Here, just take the brush and run it with the lay of my fur. He hands the brush to me, and then he stands facing away. I start slowly and run the brush through the fur between his ears and down his broad back, watching as the slightly disheveled hairs line up and lay down smoothly. It accentuates his shoulder blades and the thick and smooth muscles on his back. I'm hesitant at first, but I become more confident with each stroke. Actually, it's kind of relaxing. That is, until I brush down the left side of his neck, which makes him gasp. I pull back quickly. Sorry, did I brush too hard? Amicus chuckles. No, that's just where you hit me earlier. Oh. I look closer and see that there is what looks like a lump under the fur. I carefully brush around it and move to Amicus's front. Amicus, meanwhile, has his eyes closed with a smile on his face, clearly enjoying himself. I'm sorry about that, by the way. I was really scared when I did it. Don't worry about it, I deserved it for tying you up so poorly. Amicus gives me a wink. I feel my face grow a little hot as I focus on getting the fur to lay just right on his biceps. And you know, You're not repulsive to me at all. I was just being a dick earlier. You look good. Well, I suppose I was too. I shouldn't have made fun of your sensibilities. All aliens have their own cultures, which are different, but that doesn't mean less valuable. Amicus's tone sounds weirdly rehearsed, like he's quoting something. And also, thank you, William. I think you look good too. He might just be returning the compliment, but that's nice to hear after what Cassius said. But I definitely wasn't lying, and now that I was this close to him, I have to admit that he is a little handsome. His face is expressive and is kind of charming, and there's just a generally friendly air about him. And, well, then there's his body. It's thick and masculine, just like a burly human, and I really can't deny that it's kind of appealing. Kind of. I start to brush down the wolf's front, feeling his chest and stomach rise against the brush with his breathing. I sculpt the lighter fur around his pecs to accentuate them better, since it seems that's how he was keeping it earlier. Can't blame him. Then I move to his belly, moving the brush over its thick and slightly rounded form. The muscles are less defined here, but I can still sense the strength underneath it all. As I brush the lower part of his midsection, I notice the crotch of his loincloth bulging out rather far. Oh, right, thank you, William, that should be good. He takes the brush from my hands and turns away, leaving me with the strong suspicion that he's adjusting himself, though he covers it up by pretending to mess with the other bottle. Finally, he turns around, looking flushed. Hold out your paws, please. I stick out my hands, and he tips the bottle over, the liquid in one having a purplish tint to it. Several drops fall into my hand. Immediately, my nose is filled with that lavender scent that I've been smelling off of Amicus since I first met him. Rub them together, then just sort of pat up my body and underarms along with my neck as well. I can tell Amicus is flustered, so I do it quickly, not wanting to linger and cause the wolf any other problems. Maybe it just feels really good to be brushed like that? Is this like perfume? Yes, it keeps the muskier scents hidden for the most part. I see. Do you use perfume? Well, I guess I do wear something like that on my underarms. Feel free to use it then. I decide not to tell him that lavender scents are mostly for women on Earth. Besides, it does smell nice. Once perfume is done, Amicus moves on to getting dressed, showing me how to drape his cape over his shoulders. Alright, so I know you only have the pair of clothes you came with, so I'll have a tailor drone come up later today to see if we can't make you more pairs of what you have. Oh, okay. Now, let's head to the dining room before we're late. Amicus pauses, frowning. Now, I know you won't like it, but you're going to have to feign some ignorance in front of the others. I raise an eyebrow. How so? Well, you're going to need to act a bit dumb. The antagonistic feelings that I had been fading over the past few minutes start to rise up again. And how do I do that? Amicus shrugs. I don't know. Give them vacant stares, incoherent mumbles, act like you can't grasp more complex matters. The whole point is to make it seem like you're a typical child. I don't like it. But I don't want to have anything to do with those aliens, so if it'll make them leave me alone. Alright. Amicus lets out a breath, clearly relieved. Thank you, William. This may not always have to be the case, but for now we need to play on the safe side of things. Just let me do all of the talking. You got it. Great! Now let's hurry to the dining room. I don't want to make Cato more angry than he already is. And with that, I follow Amicus out into the hallway. So, who's Cato? The wolf you saw with my brother. He was my father's advisor and currently the acting emperor. I mentioned earlier that he'll be choosing between me and my brother. That's why I'm doing my best to keep him in a good mood, or at least not a bad mood. I don't think he has a good one. I keep in mind to stay on Cato's good side as well. Meanwhile, sunlight pours in through the open windows, and I can hear birds calling from outside again. Birds? What was that? I can hear birds. I'm just surprised they sound the same as they do here on Earth. Oh yes, you would know this, but all life has the same origin and develops in a roughly similar way. It's only natural that life here is similar to your moon planet. Oh. Well, all life on this side of the universe, at least. There may be another, but we'll have to leave that conversation for later for now. We have 3 of the same pictures on the wall, along with 3 of the same couches. I follow Amicus around the corner and find myself standing in a large, spacious room. Get it? Because there's pictures of space on the wall. The first things I notice are large screens on the wall of each room, displaying colorful images of stars, galaxies, and spaceships. In the middle of the room are what looks like beds surrounding a table. In those beds are the 2 wolves I saw earlier. Cato is sitting and leaning over towards Cassius, who is draped luxuriously over one of the beds. Cato is talking to Cassius, while the other wolf has on his typical sour expression. Sitting on the floor in front of Cassius's bed is a creature that I've never seen before. Aw, they're cute. It's definitely not a wolf, more feline-like. Cassius has his paw on his head, idly scratching it while he listens to whatever Cato is saying. He sees us and abruptly stops, sitting up. Cato stops talking and looks over at us. You're late!
And good morning to you, Cass. And to you, Cato, Alexius.
Amicus turns to Cato and the small cat creature, bowing to both of them.
Good morning.
Morning, Amicus.
The cat, Alexius, nods at Amicus with a smile. At the same time, I see Cassius tugging the gold collar around his neck. It isn't very much, but Alexius immediately drops the smile from his face, looking down.
How many times do I have to tell you not to acknowledge him, Amicus?
Amicus... what? Oh. Amicus seems to ignore Cassius, walking to the empty bed while pulling me along with him. He whispers in my ear. Sit in front like Alex is doing. I look over at the cat and see his ears perked up in our direction, though he continues to avoid looking at us. He's in a kneeling position, so I do the same, starting to feel a little uneasy about this whole setup. Amicus, meanwhile, stretches out across the bed, an elbow in the cushions as he props himself up.
Come, send in breakfast.
Yes, Cato. A few seconds later, literal flying saucers levitate into the room and from beyond another archway. I get a moment to see some sort of black device on the underside of the plates before they gently come to rest on the table. I blink, but don't say anything, deciding to just take everything in without question. I decide instead to focus on the food. I can at least identify a few of the portions, one of them being what looks like bread. Then there's a plate of an odd white crumbly substance, and next to that is a bowl of what I'm pretty sure are olives. There's a glass bottle filled with some type of red liquid, probably wine. Finally, in the middle, next to some towel-like napkins, is roasted poultry, golden-colored and steaming. It actually smells really, really good, and considering that I haven't eaten any real food in over a day, I feel my mouth water. Still, I have enough common sense to know that I probably can't just dig in, so I keep an eye on the cat, waiting to see what he does next. He grabs 4 small plates from the tall stack and sets them in front of himself. Then he starts to grab some slices of bread, which he sets down on one of the plates. I look back at Amicus and he nods. So I do the same, grabbing 4 plates and setting them out in front of myself on the table, starting to grab and separate portions of food to set them on their own plate. Meanwhile, Cato just leans over to grab his own while Cassius clears his throat.
So, Amicus, what is this?
I look up and immediately find Cassius's eyes boring into mine. I quickly look back down and grab up the wood-handled knife that Alexius just set down, using to spread the white stuff onto the slices of bread. I wrinkle my nose at how stinky it is and realize it's probably some kind of type of cheese. This is William. He's my pet.
No, Amicus, what is it? It's not one of our children. Does it belong to a sibling?
I'm half listening to the conversation while I see Alexius reach out with his bare paws and just pull a chunk of meat off the poultry. I hesitate, kind of wishing I had the chance to wash my hands, but I do it anyway, wincing at how hot it is. The temptation is strong to just stuff it in my mouth, but I manage to set it down on the plate. Finally, I grab a bunch of olives and put them on their own plate. At this point, I can see Alexius is lining his plates up in front of Cassius on the bed. Carefully, I do the same for Amicus, though I lose an olive in the process. I want to roll across the ground, but decide to ignore it, and Amicus just pats my head and with a muttered thank you. No, he's from a failed uplift. I watch as Alexius starts filling a goblet with a red liquid, but look up when I realize that there's complete silence. Cassius and Cato are both staring at Amicus. I look back at him and see he looks pretty calm, though I can see him picking at his claws.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Why? He's a barbarian!
Because I've decided the abandoned children deserve to re-establish regular contact. If we're to unite with the Camians, then we also need to unite ourselves. I start filling Amicus's goblet as I feel his eyes on me. Child or not, having a pet like this will show the Camians my intentions. Cassius scoffs loudly, popping an olive into his mouth and chewing it vigorously.
Masterful stunt, Amicus, but you still stole Father's ship to get there. Using stretch tech without authorization from the Emperor is a violation of the law, is it not, Cato?
I hand the goblet to Amicus, silently wondering if the wolf is going to be thrown in jail on my first day here. What would happen to me then? Still, Amicus looks calm, and when he sees my wide eyes, he just winks.
It could be, but there is no emperor, is there, Cassius?
Cato finally lays back, his small plates heaped high with food. He turns his head back to Amicus.
Are you saying you piloted the ship to the outer reaches of our empire? Voice commands only work for the Emperor, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. I learned to navigate the ship on my own. I was also able to communicate with their people, negotiate, and sign a contract with him. This is where I start to hear Amicus's voice falter. I actually do believe now that he doesn't lie often, because it's clear that he's so bad at it. I copy Alexius and return to my kneeling position next to the bed, then switch to a cross-legged one when my knees get too sore. Cato watches from his bed silently, and again I feel unnerved at the feeling that he might be looking at me.
Fascinating.
Cassius curls his lip back.
Fascinating? He used the stretch drive! He's going to get away with it because Father's dead? What does that make of all the other laws? Can a beggar now steal from the market because there's no authority to tell him not to? Can a child rebel against the Empire because there's no emperor to tell them?
Quiet, Cassius. You know the circumstances as well as I do.
Cassius snaps his mouth shut with a huff, turning his attention back to his food, which he starts to pick at. The conversation seems to stop there, and I wonder if Amicus is in the clear. While Cassius sure seems indignant, I get the feeling that Amicus wasn't in any danger in the first place. I guess being the Emperor's son has its perks. Could you get me some more of the au jour, William? I look over the table a moment in confusion. What's that? I keep my voice low, but that's when Cassius suddenly yowls, clapping upon his head.
Oh gods, it doesn't speak the language!
I look between Cassius and Amicus in confusion. Of course not, they were abandoned.
Most of the abandoned still speak the language. How far away is his home star?
Roughly 50,000 light years.
I don't care! Don't have it speak again! The last thing I need is a headache from the lingua manually translating everything he says. It's barbaric!
I don't know if he's calling the headache barbaric or me. Probably me.
Upload its language to the Nexus before you let it out in public again, Amicus.
I decide I really don't like Cassius. He's talking about me like I'm just a piece of property. Then I feel Amicus's paw on my shoulder for a moment, giving a soft squeeze before pulling back again. The conversation topic then shifts to stuff I don't really understand, mostly politics and the Camians, whatever that is. Despite their fight earlier, Amicus and Cassius are pretty animated in their conversation. Amicus keeps sticking empty plates in my face, indicating that I should refill them. It's clear that I'm not going to be eating while the wolves are, and I feel my irritation grow. I'm not a servant, I didn't agree to this, and even if this is supposed to help me blend in, I can't help but feel Amicus could have put me in a better position than this.
Virginia sent me a letter last night saying that she'd be bringing back a Camian tomorrow. He got trapped here after the stretch drive depletion.
Oh, he wasn't able to return on the retrieval ship?
He was on Amicus at the time, so it took him several months to get back to Adastra. He's going to be our guest until the next ship arrives. I think it will quite interesting, to see him in person. Who can say that they've met two siblings?
Cassius reaches down and starts stroking Alexius's head fur. The green and gray cat closes his eyes, smiling and purring. Watches for a moment, then frees up as I feel Amicus's paw on my head. He starts to gently scratch his blunt claws into my scalp, ruffling my hair around. It actually feels really good. But knowing what he's doing gets me pissed off all over again. He already knows I don't want to be doing this, that he brought me here against my own will. Now he's stroking me in public like I actually am his pet. Well, I guess it makes sense. I guess he's doing his part to help me blend in like I'm doing mine, just like I'm doing mine. That doesn't mean I don't hate it. And then his other paw sticks his empty goblet down under my nose. More wine, please. And let the goblet hang in the air for a moment, then take it and reach out robotically for the heavy wine bottle, getting up on my knees and to better pour it into the empty goblet. I fill it up as Amicus continues to stroke me.
But even fewer can say that they've met an abandoned species, wouldn't you think?
Cassius glares at Amicus, and I glare at the wine. I try to remind myself that this is just to help me get home. Or maybe he actually is just showing me off because he likes how he's getting under Cassius's fur. I turn on my knees and face the wolf and hand back his goblet, noticing how full it is, the wine almost sloshing over the rim. Amicus reaches out for the goblet. My fingers twitch, and then I feel the goblet slip out of my hand, watching it as it seems to fall in slow motion onto the side on the bed. The wine shoots out red gush, splashing across Amicus's lighter furred front. Ooh, everyone is like, oh, shit, bro, you fucked up. The wolf gasps, sitting up suddenly as the wine pours down his chest and stomach and onto his pants.
Damn!
Meanwhile, Cassius bursts out laughing behind me, snorting obnoxiously.
Maybe there's a reason so few have ventured out to meet them, Amicus.
I see Alex staring at me, and when I meet eyes with him, he looks down. Amicus reaches over me with one of the towels, glancing down at me as he does. I try to keep myself from smirking, and then I fail. He pauses, staring at me in astonishment as I guess he realizes that I did it on purpose. He doesn't look angry, though, and instead grabs up the towel and starts patting down his front, his fur still stained a dark maroon color.
What are you doing, Amicus?
Cassius has finished his laughing, and I look over to see him staring at us.
What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm cleaning up the mess.
Amicus growls at Cassius, continuing to pat himself down.
Dear gods, do you really don't know how to do this? Punish it!
Cassius lazily flops his paw into the air in a slapping motion. I snap my gaze to Amicus, glaring again.
No, I can't do that.
Why not?
It's in the contract, no physical punishments, just like Alexius's.
What?
You heard me.
Alexius is a sibling, it's barely even a child.
He is mine, and none of your business.
Punishment is the only way to teach the lesser species, Amicus.
He looks at me.
You, creature, up. I'll hit you instead.
Cassius!
I jump, so does Cassius, ears ringing as Amicus's deep voice bellows over me. Meanwhile, Cato just lounges on his bed listening, or maybe not.
I'll make this very clear right now. You are never to lay upon him or give him orders of any kind.
Cassius, having recovered, raises an eyebrow at Amicus.
And if I do, brother?
Amicus first starts to lay flat on his shoulders again as he shrugs. I'll punch you.
You can't do that. We're not pups anymore.
And if you call him it again, I'll do the same.
Cassius seems to choke for a moment.
What in the world has gotten into you, Amicus?
He looks at the older wolf.
Cato!
Yes, Cassius.
Well, do something. He can't threaten me like that.
Amicus, be nice to your brother.
Cassius's ears turn bright red as he slumps on the bed, glaring at his remaining food.
Anyway, if you two are finished, then be off to your studies. Don't be late this time, Amicus. Your tutor complained again last week. That's today. You know you should take care and start paying more attention. After seeing what you accomplished, I'm starting to lean towards trials and making my decision.
Ooh, the room suddenly goes very quiet.
And Cassius, I need to speak with you a moment before you leave.
Amicus gets to his feet and I do the same. The wolf glances at Cassius and Cato, but they're deep in conversation. He turns back to me. I forget that it's my study day, so I'll be gone for a little while. I'm going to ask Alexius to show you around and give you something to do while I'm away. I feel myself grow tense at the idea of being without the only person I know around here. Seriously? Listen, you don't have to do anything. I'll make that clear to everyone, but I feel you might rather have something to do rather than sit in my room all day. He seems to think it's the chore that I'm upset about rather than him leaving me alone. Alright. Amicus frowns at me and I can't help but feel a little bad. He seems to be trying to make things as easy as possible for me, and I'm sorry. I gesture at his still stained front. Don't worry, yes, wine isn't easy to get out of, Fur, but I know why you did it, and I deserved it. Is he speaking, it's his... Oh. I was like, what the...
Is it? He's speaking it his language again.
Shut up, Cassius.
What?
Alexius.
Amicus gestures at the small cat who was currently stacking the dirty dishes on top of each other.
Could you please show William around the palace along with the tasks and activities you do? Along with the activities you do. He's unfamiliar with nearly everything.
I would be happy to, Amicus.
So you can order my pet around?
Cato, standing over by the doorway and clearly eager to leave, sighs.
Enough. Try to be reasonable, Cassius. Now both of you be off to your studies, and a quick shower for you, Amicus.
Amicus grumbles and starts to turn away, then turns back to me, resting a paw on my shoulder. I'll be back toward the evening. The big wolf pauses, as if wanting to say more, but leaves me with a simple, I'll see you then. And with that, he gives me a little wave and another wink before following Cassius and Cato through the archway. Just as Amicus leaves, Cassius pauses to give me a sour look. Then again, most of his expressions are pretty sour, but it still makes me uncomfortable.